I'm out today for an overnighter. Just got done walking 13 miles, so I've worked up quite the appetite. I'm definitely a big fan of warm dinners. I've tried the cold soaking thing and have not liked it. So let's talk about my cook kit. This has been my pretty standard cook kit now for the past couple of years, but I've made a couple of tweaks since the last time I talked about this on video. Here's the cook kit. This includes the pot, the fuel, the lighter, the stove, and the windscreen. All fits in this tiny little package. The only thing that doesn't fit in here is the spork and the Hyperlight Mountain Gear REpack, which we'll talk about in a second. Let's go through this pot. The pot itself is a 900 milliliter pot from Evernew. It is titanium. I've left the handles on here. It makes it a little easier to hold, but you can also take these off and save like half an ounce. Everything that I need fits inside the pot. First up is a lighter. Typically I have a mini Bic, but just happen to have a full-size Bic today. Next up is the stove. Not a huge expert when it comes to various types of alcohol stoves, and I've never run 50 different tests and all that, but I've been using this one for quite a while and it works just fine. You pour alcohol in it, leave a little bit on the edge, stick your lighter to it, and it works just fine. I think it's a titch bit more efficient than the cat stoves that I used to use when I first started backpacking. The key to this whole system is the windscreen. Fuel bottle fits directly inside the windscreen. This is a windscreen made of titanium. I keep a rubber band on it. I got this from the grocery store. It's like a heavy-duty rubber band that they put on broccoli. I've used this same rubber band for like 3 years. So I haven't broken yet. This windscreen scrolls up, and then it's got a little hinge here where you can push it together. It works great. If it's super windy, I've had people I've camped with that have had issues with their like pocket rockets, like they've got flame going all over the place. This keeps everything nice and contained. It's not using excess fuel, and it's extremely stable. You put the pot on here, you even load it up, clear full of water, it's not going to tip. The first alcohol stove I used was a cat stove used with a cat food container, Fancy Feast, and that used to tip over all the time. The pot goes directly inside of it. It is a snug fit, snug but not too snug, and it fits on there perfect. It doesn't really come off super easy, which is really nice. So if I'm in a place where I want to have like a little mini fire and keep it contained, you can start a little fire, build it in here. Titanium doesn't melt. I don't know why, but some people on the internet think titanium melts in the fire. That's not right. They make airplane engines out of it. It's been real durable. If you take a look here, there are holes here and here, here and here, and on the other side they match up. So if you have a titanium skewer stake, you can shove it through there, and you can put the pot on top, and then it leaves about a little like finger and a half, 2-finger gap here at the entrance, and you are able to have a fire underneath of it and cook on top. So it's also a wood stove. I've done that like once. It's okay. It's not super efficient. If I compare it to like the Bush Buddy that Joe uses, it's highly inefficient, but it is a backup emergency way if you run out of fuel. Speaking of fuel, if you watched my Yosemite video from last year, you will have seen that I was using the MSR pocket rocket because I couldn't find any fuel. Here in California, they outlawed denatured alcohol, which is what I used forever. Apparently it has bad stuff for the environment or cancer, and so they got rid of it. But what I did find is REI now carries fuel, and they will ship it to you in California. So I'm back to using an alcohol stove in places that are allowed to use an alcohol stove. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll put a link in the description. It was relatively inexpensive. I think it was $8-9 for like a quart-sized container. I keep it in this. This is a 4-ounce little bottle. This is good for about 6 burns if I'm careful. If I really count out exactly how much fuel I'm putting in, I can put 6 in there. It's got a little squeezy top thing here, and you just squeeze it directly into the fuel. So let's talk about some of the accessories that go with the cook kit. First is the spoon. I used to use a folding little tiny one that would fold up and fit inside the kit just because I thought that was nice. It was all together and I never would forget it. I don't like doing that anymore because I need to be able to get to the bottom of the Ziploc without my fingers turning into like a pasta ravioli grossness. So this is a long one. This is from Toaks Titanium. I like this one better than other ones I've tried because the bowl here is polished and it's easier to clean a little bit more than this kind of like plated, kind of got some texture to it, titanium. I usually just keep this in my food bag, and it fits in there quite well. For the past 2 or 3 years, I've been doing almost all of my dinners as a boil in the bag type system. So everything goes in a Ziploc. So if I'm doing pasta, if I'm doing rice, whatever, ramen tonight is what I'm going to have this evening. I put it in a Ziploc. I just boil the water in the container, and then I pour the water into the Ziploc. You might ask, Kyle, why do you do that? Isn't that bad? Doesn't the bag melt? A couple of questions, things to address. One, Ziplocs are now BPA free. You can, almost anything sold in the stores nowadays BPA free, so I'm not a scientist, but from what I've heard, that you should be fine putting hot water into a plastic bag and eating out of it. Why do I do that versus just putting it in the pot? One major reason is just cleanup. If some of the areas I go to are high use in the mountains, stuff doesn't necessarily dissolve real fast. So I don't like trying to clean out my pot or having to deal with brown water. I don't like drinking the soupy grossness, just a personal preference. It's really, really easy to pour the hot water into the plastic bag, eat up the food out of the plastic bag, seal it back up, and then put it in your trash bag inside your food box. So one thing I've had that's helped quite a bit with boil in the bag cooking is this from Hyperlite Mountain Gear. I think this is called the REpack. It is a DCF, dynamic composite, little sack. It has a piece of plastic here in the end, so it's a little bit, it's got a bit of a base, and it's got a little clippy thing here. So once you get your Ziploc bag, and I just use the standard quart size Ziploc bags for all of my meals, you put the Ziploc in here, you open it up, you pour your hot water in, you close this, and give it 5 to 7 minutes depending on what you're eating. I use ramen a lot, quite a bit of rice, dehydrated like pasta, and pour the water in, let it sit, and it's good to go. So with these things all mixed together, or these kind of lightweight tools, I'm able to make food that I like. I think it's tasty. I think it's fast. The only negative with the system, if you're doing boil in the bag, might be excess. A, you're eating out of a plastic bag, so that's one. And then two is you do generate probably a little bit more environmental plastic. So it's not a perfect system. I use the same exact system if it's myself and Kelsey. I wouldn't use this for 3 people, but for 2 it works just fine. The 900 milliliter pot is big enough that you are able to get enough water in there to make 2 different meals. And then Kelsey has her own REpack, so we both just do boil in the bag systems. I really like this pot too for one other reason, which is kind of this is getting dorky, but it's a short fat pot versus a tall skinny pot. So it'll warm up faster given the same amount of energy because the water column is not quite as tall. So it's short and fat will warm up quicker than something that's tall and skinny. So that's nice. And I think it's easier personally to pack this because it's kind of square cube-like versus tall kind of things. Like I've used other mugs that are 600 or 900, and I just find it easier that this is squatter and easier to cook out of. Here's my final product. I got my dinner for this evening, and I've got the little REpack. The same flap that was over the top to kind of keep it all warm is now kind of used as a handle. So put it in there, and then I think it's pretty easy to eat from. That hits the spot. I doubled the Parmesan recipe than what I typically do. So much better. I'm always looking for ideas for videos, so if you guys see any gear that I'm using on a regular basis, you want me to do some type of review on it, I'd be happy to do so. So please let me know if you got any questions. It's probably not the perfect system for everyone, but for my kind of trips, it is quite nice. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments on the system, please put them in the comments and I will reply back. Thanks for watching.